Welcome to the Church Ready podcast. Expect honest conversations for church leaders about AI threats to the labor-based tithe model, so you can begin the conversation your leadership team needs to have. Let's join your hosts, Bradley Willis and Elizabeth Carter, now.
If you're leading a church right now, you probably know exactly what it feels like to face that, that really uncomfortable tension between the sanctuary and the screen.
Oh, yeah. That's heavy burden.
Right. Because usually when we talk about a church's digital presence, there's this unspoken expectation of marketing. Like you're being asked to run a business.
Which just feels wrong to most pastors.
Exactly. You're supposed to put up this slick website, post some highly produced worship clips, and then the metrics are all about, how many likes or shares you got. It feels like you're commodifying the gospel.
It absolutely does. And for a shepherd, that transactional nature is just deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Pastors prefer things to be relational, right? To be organic. They want things to happen face to face in a real physical community.
But then you step into the reality of modern isolation, and suddenly that traditional organic model is, it's missing an entire landscape of hurting people.
Completely missing them.
We're looking at a mission field that is honestly just invisible to a lot of church leaders right now. I'm Bradley Willis.
And I'm Elizabeth Carter. It's great to be here with you.
And we have an incredibly urgent mission for you, the pastor or church leader listening to this deep dive.
We really do.
Yeah, so our specific mission today is exploring a concept we're calling the church nobody can find. Why digital presence is a mission issue.
I love that title.
It hits hard, right? And I want to tease the core insight right out of the gate here. Think about Matthew 28, the Great Commission.
Mm-hmm.
It does not specify a geography. It just says go. Every single platform where people are searching for hope, for community, for answers to their hardest questions, that is a mission field.
Which really requires us to validate a very real, very common pastoral hesitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
For many church leaders, digital ministry just feels like a distraction from the real work, like you're playing some sort of algorithmic game.
Right.
But the goal of our conversation today is to reframe that hesitation. Building a digital presence, it isn't a marketing initiative. It is a mission-critical strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into the actual mechanics of how to build this digital footprint, we need to address the elephant in the room.
We do.
Why do pastors resist this so much? The analogy that comes to mind is that many pastors view digital presence like buying a flashy, really expensive billboard on a highway they don't even like driving on.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. It feels loud. It feels boastful. So let me push back a bit on behalf of the listener. Doesn't focusing on online views actively pull time and resources away from real, boots-on-the-ground pastoral care?
No, because it's a false dichotomy to assume that digital reach and physical care are in opposition.
Okay, say more about that.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, a church with absolutely no digital presence isn't being humble, it's being absent.
Wow. Absent.
Yeah. The digital space is not a billboard. It is a stewardship of the platforms where your congregants, neighbors, their coworkers, and their family members are already spending the vast majority of their waking hours.
So it's not about, shouting your church's name from the rooftops. It's about literally just being present where the community actually lives.
Yes, exactly. Most people will research a church 3 to 5 times online before they ever physically step foot inside the building.
Which is wild to think about.
But it's true. They're watching a sermon clip to see if the pastor is authentic.
Yeah.
They're checking the website to see if their kids will be safe in the children's ministry. They're looking at social media comments to see if the community is actually genuine.
3 to 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that means the decision to visit your church on Sunday was actually made on a Tuesday afternoon while they were just, scrolling on their phone on the couch.
Which means if you are invisible online, especially to younger generations or displaced professionals who essentially live in these digital spaces, you simply lack the capacity to minister to them.
Yeah.
By ignoring the digital space, you are implicitly telling your city that your ministry only exists between 9 a.m. and noon on a Sunday morning inside 4 physical walls.
And that's just not where life happens for most people.
No.
Especially not when crises hit. So if we accept that the digital space is a valid mission field, what is causing people to desperately search that field right now?
That's the real issue.
Because the pastoral report makes it really clear that we aren't just dealing with the usual cultural loneliness, there's a massive accelerant being poured on this fire.
Yeah, and that accelerant is the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence and how it's displacing jobs. AI displacement isn't just a threat to your church's budget, though it certainly impacts that. It is fundamentally a profound pastoral crisis.
Because when people lose their jobs, they don't just lose their income, they lose the entire scaffolding of their lives.
Yes, they do. And the Shepherd's Double Burden document breaks this down into 4 human dimensions that every pastor needs to understand.
Not just as economic concepts, but as real psychological realities.
Precisely. So dimension 1 is financial hardship. This is the most visible layer, obviously.
Right, savings are depleted.
Yeah, mortgage payments fall behind, and you see those benevolence requests start to spike. But the financial hit is really just the first falling domino.
Right, because the checkbook isn't the soul. So what happens internally when that financial foundation cracks?
Well, that triggers dimension 2, which is mental health and the grief of identity loss.
This one is huge.
It is. We need to look at why identity loss for a displaced knowledge worker feels so devastating today. These are individuals, often men, who have tied their entire self-worth, their intellect, and their purpose to their career.
They spent decades mastering a very specific cognitive skill.
Exactly. And when a machine learns to do that exact skill in 3 seconds, it is an existential blow. It's not just, I lost my job. It is, I am obsolete.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because specific type of grief doesn't look like a funeral.
No, it doesn't.
It looks like a guy who sits in the 3rd row, smiles, and says he's fine on Sunday morning, but is quietly, deeply withdrawing.
Because there's a massive stigma attached to it.
Right. He tells himself, it's just a job, I shouldn't be this depressed.
And because he internalizes all that shame, it bleeds into dimension 3, which is family stress and relational strain.
Of course it does.
The mechanism here is about shifting household dynamics. The traditional breadwinner is suddenly at home on a Tuesday, trying to reinvent themselves while the bills are piling up.
Yeah, and the spouses are navigating this totally uncharted territory, maybe having to re-enter the workforce themselves.
The pressure just cooks quietly. Economic stress is one of the highest predictors of marital conflict, and it just erodes the family unit from the inside out.
Which brings us to dimension 4. And this is the one that I think catches a lot of church leaders totally off guard.
Oh, definitely.
Community isolation. If you think about the modern knowledge worker, especially post-pandemic, their workplace is their primary social structure.
It is their entire digital water cooler. I mean, their friendships exist in Slack channels and Microsoft Teams meetings.
Yep.
So when the job disappears, the email gets shut off, and that entire social safety net vanishes instantly.
Just gone.
They are severed from their daily community overnight.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Because a pastor might hear this and think, okay, but if they are feeling isolated, won't they just lean harder into their church community? Won't they come to small group or, talk to me after the service on Sunday?
No, because shame drives people into hiding, not into the light.
Wow, yeah.
The psychological reality of this multi-layered grief being broke, stripped of your identity, fighting with your spouse, and isolated from your peers is that it peaks when people are alone.
Right.
The vulnerability doesn't happen in the church lobby when everyone is wearing their Sunday best and smiling. It happens at 2 a.m.
The 2 a.m. anxiety. They are staring at the ceiling, feeling the full weight of their family's uncertain future, and they are completely overwhelmed.
And eventually they reach for that glowing screen on their nightstand.
Yeah. They type something into a search bar. They're searching for answers, for comfort, for anything to numb the panic, or just give them a shred of hope.
A vital quote highlights this perfectly. A church with a strong digital presence meets people at their point of vulnerability, not just at their point of attendance.
Point of vulnerability. That's so good.
In those quiet, isolated moments when people are actually honest about their pain, that is when they turn to their screens. If your church isn't established in that space, providing a message of hope, who or what is filling that void?
That is a really chilling thought.
Right.
If this 2 a.m. anxiety is happening right now, then just knowing about it isn't enough.
Right.
How does a burned-out church staff actually intercept that late-night Google search without working 24 hours a day? Because we don't just want a bunch of passive YouTube subscribers, right? We want to actually help these people.
This is exactly where stage 4 of the Resilience Roadmap comes into play. Local and digital outreach.
Okay, let's get into this.
Success in stage 4 is not about going viral. It's not about becoming a religious influencer. It is strictly about discoverability. It is ensuring that when that isolated person searches for meaning or community in your specific city, your church is the first thing they find.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Can we walk through a concrete example of this user journey?
Let's follow that exact 2 a.m. scenario.
Okay.
That displaced, isolated worker is lying in bed in your city. They open YouTube or Google and type in something like feeling lost and hopeless.
Yeah.
Because your church has implemented stage 4 discoverability, the search engine serves them a 60-second clip cut directly from your Sunday sermon about finding purpose in the wilderness.
Oh, wow.
They watch it, it resonates, the caption has a clear call to action, so they click over to your church's profile and send a direct message saying, I just lost my job, I don't know what to do.
Wait, let me stop you right there, because this is where they talk about automated direct messages.
Yes.
Doesn't that risk feeling incredibly robotic and impersonal to someone in a crisis? Like, if I pour my heart out at 2 a.m. and get a chatbot response, I'm going to feel even more alienated.
That is a very valid concern, but only if the automation is pretending to be human.
Ah, okay.
When done correctly, the automation acts as an instant bridge, not a replacement for pastoral care.
Well, that makes sense.
The automated reply instantly acknowledges them. It says, thank you so much for reaching out. Our pastoral team checks these messages every morning and will follow up with you directly. But for tonight, we want to leave you with this prayer for anxiety and a link to our online support group for career transitions.
Ah, I see. So it catches them while they're falling.
Exactly.
It validates their 2 a.m. courage to actually reach out, provides immediate resources, and then sets the expectation that a real human will take over in the daylight.
Exactly. It operates as digital triage, and from there, the digital engagement is designed to eventually turn into a first-time physical visit and then into genuine community belonging.
Right.
The digital pathway lowers the barrier to entry so much that when they finally walk into the lobby on Sunday, they already feel like they know you.
But let's be completely realistic for a second. The pastor listening to this is probably feeling their blood pressure rise right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Their staff is already burning the candle at both ends. They're managing budget constraints, doing marriage counseling, visiting hospitals. They are thinking, I don't have the time to edit daily 60-second clips, optimize metadata for discoverability, or set up direct message automation workflows.
And they shouldn't have to. The goal here is not to add 40 hours of digital marketing work to an already exhausted pastor's plate.
Before we explain how to offload that burden, I want to make sure our listener knows exactly where to find the blueprint for all of this.
Absolutely.
The Church Ready Resilience Roadmap is available in the Church Ready Resource Hub. To gain access, download our free pastoral report when AI replaces your tither's job. There's a link in the show notes.
That resource is critical because it addresses the operational reality of this exact challenge. And this is exactly why Church Ready Social exists.
Right.
It's about operational relief. Church Ready Social handles the heavy lifting of stage 4.
Which is huge.
It extracts those weekly video devotionals from the sermons you are already preaching, creates the daily social content, and manages that 247 direct message automation so your staff doesn't have to.
Your sermon shouldn't disappear into the ether by Monday afternoon. You poured hours of prayer, study, and exegesis into that message.
Yes.
It should be an encouraging presence out in the digital mission field all week long, intercepting those late-night searches.
Yes. And when technology handles the systems, the follow-ups and the discoverability, pastors are freed up to do what only human pastors can do.
Yeah.
The irreplaceable relational work of counseling, prayer, and being physically present with their flock.
So what does this all mean for the timeline? Because I can hear another bit of hesitation from our listener.
Okay, what is it?
If the economic displacement from AI is really just starting to ramp up and the wave hasn't fully crashed yet, why do we need to overhaul our digital presence today? Can't we just wait until the benevolence requests actually start rolling in and then respond to the need?
What's fascinating here is the theological precedent for how we approach impending crises. They anchor this entirely in what is called the Joseph Principle from Genesis 41.
The 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine.
Right. Think about the logistics of what Joseph actually did. He built massive storehouses in Egypt during the years of abundance.
Yeah.
He gathered the grain, established the supply chains, and organized the distribution systems before a single person was hungry.
Wow.
Imagine the resistance he probably faced. People likely thought it was a massive waste of resources to build silos when times were good.
Oh, for sure.
But he don't wait for people to start starving in the streets to figure out how to feed them.
You can't build a grain silo while a starving mob is asking you for bread.
No, you can't.
If you wait until the famine hits, you're just doing reactive damage control.
And reactive leadership in a crisis always fails. Joseph practiced visionary stewardship.
Visionary stewardship.
Yes, building your digital presence, optimizing your operations, and establishing these automated pathways right now while you still have the capacity, the budget, and the strength is visionary stewardship.
That's incredibly powerful.
It ensures that when your congregation faces its famine, whether that is the economic displacement from AI or the emotional devastation of isolation, your church is already established as the storehouse.
They don't have to wonder where to go for help because you've already built the roads that lead right to your front door.
Precisely. If you wait until the pressure arrives to start trying to figure out algorithms and digital pathways, you will be scrambling from a position of weakness.
Yeah.
You will become just another overwhelmed institution that couldn't help when people needed it most. But if you build the infrastructure now, you are ready to serve the minute the crisis hits.
Man, we have covered some profound ground today. Let's just trace the causality of this journey we've been on.
Let's do it.
We started by completely reframing how we view the internet.
Right.
We took it out of the box of being a flashy, boastful marketing billboard and recognized it for what it truly is, a mission field.
Right.
It is a stewardship of the spaces where your community actually lives and breathes throughout the week.
Then we looked at the underlying mechanisms of the modern crisis. We explored how AI job displacement isn't just a budget issue, it creates a cascading psychological collapse.
Yeah.
We talked about how losing a knowledge-based career triggers a silent identity crisis, bleeds into profound marital strain, and instantly severs a person's digital community.
And we identified how that multi-layered grief culminates in the 2 a.m. anxiety, that moment of intense vulnerability where traditional Sunday morning services simply cannot intercept the pain.
Exactly.
Which is why stage 4 discoverability and automated pathways are so critical to catch people when they fall, eventually leading them to stage 5, which is real community.
Finally, we talked about stepping into the calling of a visionary steward through the Joseph Principle, doing the hard, counterintuitive work of building the storehouse and establishing your digital infrastructure today before the famine hits your city.
It's a massive calling, but it is one that the church is uniquely equipped to answer if we are willing to adapt our methods without changing our message.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a different angle on this entire conversation.
Okay.
Consider this thought experiment. In 5 or 10 years, the very artificial intelligence that displaced your congregant's job could be the exact underlying technology that powers the search engine they use at 2 a.m. to find your church.
Wow.
Technology itself is completely agnostic. It is the stewardship of that technology that determines whether it brings isolation or salvation.
Yeah.
If the world is using these tools to accelerate isolation, shouldn't the church be mastering them to accelerate connection? Think about that as you plan your strategy this week.
If you are a pastor or church leader, download the free pastoral report, When AI Replaces Your Tithers' Jobs, so you can begin the conversations your leadership team needs to have. There is a link in the description. Until next time, lead well, steward wisely, and trust deeply.